There is only one perfect solution. There are clues that will try to trick our team.
Hello there, everyone. I'm Crazy Caleb, and today we are taking a look at the high score. So what we need to do is we need to determine our initials that we're going to input into the module based off of some specific rules here. So now it's going to also base this off of our position on the high score and our actual score itself for some rules in this case. So how do we start ourselves off? So what we need to do is we need to use the table below, like such, and start at the index that matches the first character in the serial number. Well, let's find that. The first character can mean any numbers. So let's do that. So our first character is a delta. Let's go find that, because these are not ordered in their alphabetical order, and it says here that numbers are prefixed with a hash before them, like number 7 and number 8. So let's find delta in this case. And what we need to do is we need to determine each of the characters. And it is important to note that the first rule that defines any character of the name is final, and if we happen to get any other rules, we will never use them. If the rule says to jump to a character, the next row is the row with the index that this rule specifies. However, if it doesn't ask us to jump, simply what we're going to do is we're going to go down the next row. So, like such here, and just keep doing that. So let's take a look at our first rule. The sum of the digits in the player's score is odd. So our player is the one that's sort of rainbow colored in this case. And what we're going to do is we're going to sum up all of these digits and check if it's odd. Simple enough. 6, 12, 13, 20, and a 28. It gives us a score of 28, so that is not true. So we will not follow this rule. Moving on down to the next row. Any score above the player was set by KS, happens to be the maker of the module. However, KS is below us in this case. Rex is above us, hi Rex Kick, and that doesn't apply, so we're going to move on to the next row. The first character of the player's name has been defined. It has not, however, so what we're going to do is move on from that rule, because that is not what matters. And it refers to each character from left to right in this case, 1, 2, and 3, etc., etc. The sum of the digits in the player's score is less than or equal to 15. We already determined that this was 28, so this is obviously not true. No jumps taken at this point. We haven't gotten into one of these rules that says jump in this case. So actually, we're going to do that in this case, because we haven't taken any jumps. So we're going to jump to the fourth character in the serial number. Our fourth character in this case is November. So let's find November in here. Right down here. So, this rule asks us, is our player's score greater than or equal to 200,000 and less than or equal to 600,000? It is greater than 600,000, however, in this case, so we are not going to apply that rule. Next up, the player's name at this point does not contain an X. It doesn't, because we don't have any X's. These are just placeholders, so our next character is an X. What does it mean by our next character? Let's take a look down here. If a rule defines the next character, it defines the leftmost character of the name that has yet to be defined. So in this case, if the first character was already defined and the the second character wasn't, that would be our next character in this case. Same thing can be said except for 3 in this case. 3 was already defined because the third character can be defined before any of the others happen, oddly enough. So the next character is an X, and our first character is actually going to be an X. Let's go on down to the next one. At least one jump taken at this point. We did happen to take one jump back up here at C, right here. So that is true, at least one jump taken at this point. The next character is the previous character plus the leftmost number in the player's score. So the leftmost number is a 6, and our previous character was an X-ray. So what we're going to do is, if a rule says a character is plus or minus a number, do the Caesar shift on that character by that specified amount. Gives you examples right here. Echo plus 1 is Foxtrot, Echo minus 1 is Delta, etc., etc. So what we're going to do is we're going to Caesar shift X-ray by 6 to get us our next character. So in this case, shifting that by 6 will give us a Charlie in this case, because we go from, let's take an example here, so we go from X-ray, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Excuse me, that is a delta. I assumed that in my head, and I was wrong. But that's our second character. We have our first and our second character defined. Now we need our third character. Moving on down, it doesn't ask us to jump, so we're good. The third character of the player's name has been defined. No, unfortunately not, because that's the actual character we're looking for in this case. The sum of the serial number digits is greater than the sum of the player's score. This is asking for a lot because this sum has to be the sum of the serial number digits has to be greater than 28 in this case. So let's take a look. The sum of the serial number characters is a 19, so this is not true because it is not greater than the sum of 28. Next rule. The player is in 5th and the player's score is greater than or equal to 600,000. No, the player is in 2nd, however, so let's not worry about that right now. The serial number contains a repeated letter. However, in this case, there is a repeated number, but not a repeated letter, so this does not apply whatsoever. This is the starting row. No, our starting row was a delta, so that's obviously not true. The player is not in 1st, which it isn't, it's in 2nd, and the first player's score is greater than or equal to 800,000. It is in this case. So let's take a look at our rule. The first character in the is the first character of the name that is set the first place score. However, we've already defined our first character. It was an X-ray in this case. So what we would do if it wasn't defined is we would simply take the first name from the first player's score, in this case a Romeo, and that would be our first character instead. However, that is not the case, so because we've already defined our first character, and it says here, the first rule that defines any character of the name is final. Ignore any future attempts to redefine that character. Such as the case right here. The player is not in 3rd. That is true. It's in 2nd. The third character is the previous character minus 3. The previous character is a delta. Delta minus 3 in this case is going to be an alpha. And this is what we're going to submit right here, since we have all 3 characters defined. So we're going to cycle through here, and we're going to press the submit button to move on to the next one, and this red button resets it. So that's nice. And when we input all 3 letters, it will automatically submit. If you were right or wrong, it will give you a strike, obviously. Next up is a delta. Next up is an alpha. And just like that, it's a solved module. When the scores disappear, insert coin. Just like an old arcade machine. Let's take a look at another one, as these rules are rather quite tricky sometimes. We are in 5th place this time, go figure. And we're going to start at our first character of the serial number. In this case, it is going to be a 2, a number 2, because characters matter. It doesn't matter what it is, it's going to be a number or a letter. So let's find number 2 on here. Right here. Player is in 1st. No, God no. And the player score is greater than 750,000. God no. Next rule. Serial number contains no vowels. Let's check. There is 2 vowels, so that is obviously not true. Player's name at this point has no characters defined. That is true. So let's take a look at the rule. The third character is the first letter in the serial number. So in this case, our third character actually becomes a uniform, and that's been defined. So now taking a look at our next rule, doesn't ask us to jump at all. So taking a look down here, the player's score is greater than or equal to 200,000, but less than or equal to 600,000. That is absolutely true. As you can see here, we have 314,000 in this case, so we're going to jump to P in this case, which happens to be right here. If at least one jump is taken at this point, guess what? It was. The next character is the previous character plus the leftmost number in the player's score. So our next character, as it mentions here, but we just defined the third character. What is our next character? As it says here, like we said before, if a rule defines the next character, it defines the leftmost character of the name that hasn't been defined. So we're going to look at the first character instead. And if a rule refers to a previous character, use the character that was most recently defined. In this case, our most recently defined was a uniform. Let's take a look back at this rule. The next character is the previous character. So a uniform in this case, plus the leftmost number in the player's score, plus 3. So a uniform plus 3 will give us a value of, so uniform, Victor, Whiskey, and UV and a W. Excuse me. U, V, W, and then an X. Haha, it actually gives us an X again. I'm going to space these out like I always do. And now all we need to do is define our second character. Ironically, I've been getting X's for some reason. So let's move on down to the next rule. Third character of the player's name has been defined. Absolutely it has. But this rule has to deal with the first character. So since we've already defined that, we're going to move on. And we're going to jump to the third character. Let's pay attention to that. This rule still does apply, but our first character has been defined, so this part does not apply. So we're going to jump to the third character. So our third character is a uniform. Let's find that and jump to it. Uniform. We're actually back up here. So what we can actually do is we can just go through these things. Serial number contains no vowels. We said it did. So player's name has no characters defined. It doesn't. So no. Move on to that next rule. We're going to jump to P. At least one jump was taken. And finally, the next character is the previous character being an X-ray in this case, because that was our previously defined character, plus the leftmost number in the player's score. 3 in this case. So X-ray plus 3 is going to give us a Yankee, Zulu, and an Alpha. And this is what we're going to submit. X-ray, Alpha, and a uniform. And just like that, a solved module. Let's take a look at one final example, as some of these rules can be a little interesting. Aha, we're in first place now. So our first character of the serial number is a hotel. Let's find the hotel in here. The player's name at this point has no characters defined. Absolutely it does. We just started this module. Go back to our placeholders. The third character is the first letter of the serial number, in the serial number in this case. Hotel, look at that. And just like that, we have our first character defined. Next up, the player's score is greater than or equal to 200,000. However, it isn't. It is only 100,000, so this is already not true. The player's name at this point does not contain an X. No, it doesn't actually. So the next character is an X. These are just placeholders, remember, so this character is actually going to become an X, because the next character, like it says down here, defines the leftmost character. So these two values are already defined, the first and the third, so let's find our second character, and then be done with this module. At least one jump was taken at this point. No, we haven't. We wouldn't jump to P in this. We didn't jump to P in this case, so this is not going to work. Third character of the player's name has been defined. Yes. However, taking a look here, the first character is the third character. We've already defined our first character. Remember, that was an X. So now, what we're going to do is, instead of defining the third character, we're just going to jump to the third character, in this case, a hotel. The third character is the first letter in the serial number. We've already defined our third character. Moving on. We said our score was less than 200,000, so this does not apply. Our player does have an X, the first character, at this point. And at least one jump was taken at this point. Yes, it was. From number 5 back to our third character in this case. We jumped. And our next character is the previous character, plus the leftmost number in the player's score. In this case, being a 1. Our previous character was an X-ray, so X-ray plus 1 becomes a Yankee. And this is our final value. Our final initials in this case. And a hotel. And just like that is a solved module. As always, thank you guys for watching. Stay crazy, stay cool, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.